Hola, internets. My name is Terry Cole, one of the owners of Colemine Records and Platinum Records, along with my brother Bob. Colemine Records, we are an independent record label. We've been around for about 20 years. We operate out of Loveland, Ohio, an adorable, quaint little town. Our brick and mortar record store, Platinum Records, is also in Loveland, and we've been around for 11 years. It's crazy. Wild times. So today, we are going to be breaking down a track called Flat Tire from Kendra Morris's most recent release, Next, on our Karma Chief Records imprint. Flat Tire features Kendra on vocals and guitar, Primo on guitar, Chauncey Yearwood on drums, Andrew Miramonte on bass, and Ray Jacildo on organ and piano. So before we get started, we are at Portage Lounge, and our studio is a hybrid studio. It's a mix of old gear and old compressors, old mics, tape machines, more traditional or older recording techniques, but a lot of the mixing is done in the box in Logic. And so we use all these old stuff to color the sound and to give character, but ultimately we're finishing things in the box with plugins and all the latest newfangled technology that exists. So today what you're going to be hearing are the stems from Logic playing out through our Tascam 388. The 388 is sort of the centerpiece of the studio. Everything I record here goes through it. Sometimes it's hitting tape, sometimes it's just going through the mixer section into the DAW. But today what you're hearing is all the stems playing out of Logic into the 388, and then I'll be bringing them up and down as we go through each stem and talking about the plugins that were used, the mics, the preamps, all that kind of good stuff. All right, if you've lasted that long, you're committed, you're ready. So here we go. So right now you're hearing all 8 stems that I've got grouped up, playing out through the 388. We're just going to go through each set, talk about all the stuff that was used. So let's start with the room mic. This is, I would say, a pretty significant part of the sound of this particular song. This is an AEA R84 ribbon mic going through an Altec 1566 tube preamp, then hitting the Warm Audio 76 for a little compression, and then going into the DAW. None of this stuff hit tape. This all went through the 388 into Logic, but none of it hit tape going in. We tried it both ways, and we decided that the going straight through the mixer into the DAW just sounded better for this particular record. And as far as the plugins that are being used on it, I added a little bit of compression with the 1176 plugin, a little bit of EQ to roll off some of the low end, and then it's hitting the Capital Chambers plugin pretty hard. One thing you don't hear right now, and you'll hear at the end, is that the verbs being used, the Capital Chambers plugin and the Fostec Spring Reverb, are pretty clutch to how the record sounds overall. So this one in particular, I'll let you hear what it sounds like with the Capital. So it's basically a room mic that's getting compressed and then getting driven through the Capital Chambers pretty hard. So that's the vibe. All right, next up, drums. So we have 3 drum mics, but we only ended up using 2 on the mix. So let's just go through all 3 real quick. So this is Chauncey playing our in-house Rogers kit. I believe he was playing through Pophonic, Ludwig. Kick mic, same thing I'm pretty much used on every session here ever. Shure 545, right where the front head would be. There is no front head on. It's using the 388 onboard preamp. Really nothing to write home about. If you listen by itself, just sounds like a kick mic. Nothing crazy. This is the one where there's a lot of mojo happening. I should mention, I guess, sorry, the plugins. LA2A, doing a little bit of something, nothing crazy. And then some EQ, rolling all the high stuff off, juicing the stuff at 80, it looks like. But this is the mojo for the drum kit for sure. So this is the Shure 300 ribbon. This is overhead, probably like 5-6 feet right above the kit. It's kind of acting as a room and a drum overhead. It's going through a 1592, Altec 1592 solid state preamp into Logic. And then once I'm in Logic, I'm hitting an overdrive plugin. Man, I didn't even know I still use that. That's crazy, but I am hitting it. And then hitting an 1176, just kind of squash the drums, and then hitting the capital verb. So here's the end result with the capital verb. Okay. So yeah, the snare mic we just didn't end up using. Not sure why. Probably wanted more of a roomy vibe on this track. All right, next up, guitars. We have 2 guitar tracks for this one. Primo did the track and Kendra. We only ended up keeping Primo because once we added Ray's organ and piano parts, I think we decided that there was already enough in that mid-range area that we didn't need to have Kendra's track in there. So let's go through Primo's stuff first. So Primo plays a Gibson 335. This is going through our Ampeg Gemini 2, mic'd with the 57, onboard 388 preamp, like nothing fancy or really that cool. It's just a good amp, and Primo's playing the right parts, and it sounds really good. Kendra's playing her Jaguar through one of our Harmony amps. Again, mic'd with the 57, onboard 388 preamp, but we ended up ditching it anyway because we decided that the keyboard parts were kind of occupying that space. On Primo's track, a little bit of compression with the 1176, a little bit of EQ to scoop out, get rid of the lows and some of the highs. Yeah, pretty easy. Hitting the Fostex hard. Pretty key. All right, next up, Boss. Mr. Andrew Miramonte playing his Hofner Beetle bass, going through an Ampeg B200 Rocket bass, RIP to that amp. It started setting itself on fire last week. No bueno. So gonna have to get a replacement for that guy here soon. This was running DI out of that bass amp into a Bellari RP503 preamp. Just basically using the Bellari to kind of sculpt the overall sound, and the compressor portion of the Bellari to sort of control the transients and make sure it wasn't blowing the channel strip out. LA2A plugin, not doing a whole lot. EQ, rolling some high stuff off, boosting the lows. Pretty normal. Really, this track comes down to awesome performances, and really it's the backgrounds that it's Kendra's vocals and it's the backgrounds that really make the track, in my opinion. All right, next up, Mr. Ray Jacildo. So he's got 2 parts on here. Got the piano and the organ part. So his piano bass part is basically mimicking Primo's kind of chanks. This is his Kimball console piano. Slightly perfectly out of tune, as you'll notice. He mic'd it with a Rode condenser mic on the right in the middle of the back of the soundboard. Just went straight to his computer, sent me the file. Here it is. We ran it pretty heavily, as you can see here. through the Fosdick spring, because this is a rocksteady reggae joint, so you have to have spring. But ultimately, Ray is, he was a member of Junior Thomas and the Volcanoes, so he is very well steeped in exactly what to play when it comes to these kinds of tunes. He's also just such a sweet human being and a wonderful cook. His other part, the organ bubble, this is his Hammond A100 coming direct out, going through, I think, like an echo and a verb and maybe something else to dirty it up. But I'll back up a little bit so you can hear his part again. Nothing much happening here on the plug-in side, really. A little bit of compression, and then hitting the Fosdecks pretty hard again. That's the theme for the day. Little compression, hit the Fosdecks. Little compression, hit the Fosdecks. So those are Ray's parts, and he just nailed it. All right, next up, Kendra's lead vocals. Fun story with these. The last day they were recording here in Loveland, we got done like a day early, and we had Friday basically to get tons of vocals done. We got bunch of lead vocals, some of them were scratch tracks, a bunch of backgrounds. We're all just feeling like we can take over the world. Gonna go get Mexican. It's gonna be a great day. Right before we leave, I realized that I have deleted almost all of the backgrounds and all of the lead vocals. I feel gutted and terrible. Everyone's sort of like, oh, just sad. It's like mourning. Kendra went in the front yard and cried. It was so sad. I felt terrible. We went and had Mexican, and it was delicious, and it was fun, but there was definitely sort of a cloud over the whole thing. So a few weeks later, I drove to New York and did all the vocals again in her apartment. So this lead that you're hearing was done in her apartment with a Shure SM5B going through an Altec 1592A preamp. That's all I took. I took that mic, and I took that preamp and my laptop, and we did it right there in her house. So that's her lead. As far as what I did here in the mix, some kind of weird EQ and then a bandpass filter, and then some compression, and then hitting the Fosdecks. Pretty weird. Here's what it sounds like when it's off. So that's all the plugins off. EQ. I don't know why I just didn't do that on the EQ, but it's what I did. Can't negotiate with my previous self. So that's her lead. Also, while I was there in New York, I went and did all of the backgrounds, which, like I said, I think Kendra's vocal and the backgrounds are really like the crux of this track. So this is Chauncey, Primo, and Monty doing all these together at Kendra's spot around the Shure SM5B going into the 1592 preamp all at the same time. We'll start over so we can hear it from the top. But they had these parts so well rehearsed by the time I got there that I just had to point a mic at them. And let's look at what all is on this, because there's kind of a lot. So on what you're hearing right now, there's an EQ rolling off the highs, rolling off the lows, compression, and then you got some tape delay and a bunch of verb hitting both the Fosdecks and the capital. And yeah, giving that delay for a little bit of that rocksteady reggae dub feel. But they just nailed these parts. They're wonderful. I think this is one of my favorite parts of the entire record. And it was really fun doing it in Kendra's apartment because she's sitting there like kind of directing them. And that's the last bit. The last thing that you want to hear is all the verb, which is now up. So this is the capital and the Fosdecks on a separate track. And you can kind of hear like there's just a lot of things hitting the verb, because that's kind of the key to this track. So everything brought in together.
Hit another reef again. Or I watch a movie, something kind of juicy. Check out chicken, I'm just trying to find a way.
So the only thing you're not hearing right now is the master bus stuff right here, which is pretty important to this cut. I tend to use this Ampex ATR 102 on pretty much every master bus, and it does add a lot of character to this. The Fairchild is here adding a little bit of something. It's barely touching the Fairchild. The Ampex is pretty clutch, so I'll toggle back and forth between the final output where you do hear the master bus and the 388 output, which you're hearing right now. So right now this is a 388, no master bus. This is with the Ampex. Definitely coloring it. A boost in the high mids. This makes it kind of sound like a shitty old reggae record a bit, a little cassette-y. And now Mitch is going to transition to the actual master. Wait a minute, hold on. He's going to do it here in a moment. Let me get to this spot, because this is my favorite spot of the record. All right, final mix. And now